right. So, as you may know, this is Jonathan O'Malley. I'm an agent at Serhant here in New York City. And today we're going to do things a little different. We're still in the podcast studio, but we're going to change gears a little bit. It's not just geared towards real estate, but we want to sort of target a specific group of people in New York. And as you know, my own sort of brand and philosophy about the next generation is very much people who are doing something different and people who are ahead of the game in a sense, and sort of the next generation of how the world is going to evolve in different sort of professionalism, not just real estate, but overall. And that's why I want to bring my good friend, Graham S. Lewis, on here. And Graham, tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe
Sure.
Start where you were born. Sort of give us
A brief overview?
Yeah.
Sure. So my name is Graham. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I have a deep interest in menswear and clothing that I've pursued basically from high school to now. So I started retail at like 16 or so with American Apparel, went to Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, double majored fashion design, fashion marketing, several internships throughout that time period, and then throughout that as well, working full-time, more like part-time, full-time when I could, at Suit Supply, where we met.
Of course.
And then from there, went and applied to many different design positions that were available in New York when I moved here after graduating, and eventually landed at Ralph Lauren, and I've been with them for about 3.5 years now.
That's not a small feat. Graham, but we'll bring it back a little bit. Where do you think you got the interest sort of in design and aesthetics and everything that you do? And we'll go into detail.
Sure.
This guy's amazing. We'll cover that. Where do you think you sort of gained that interest and passion for it?
I don't know. It's always been a something to express, like an art form, you know? It's a visual language to communicate. I think it can say so much. But really, it probably, genetically came from my mom's side. My dad has a little bit of creativity, but my mom is much more, artistically inclined, if you will.
What is your mom?
She was in events and party rentals, things of that nature. Yeah. She had her own business for quite some time. She recently sold it. But yeah, I think that's probably where I got that artistic side, creativity from her. My dad was going to be an architect at one point, switched to law.
Yeah, that counts.
But yeah, I think growing up in an environment where my parents are very encouraging of freedom of expression and individuality and find your own thing, and I quickly latched on to clothing. I think it was maybe the most readily available and accessible thing from an art form that could change every day, which I really liked. You know, if you're feeling gloomy, go all gray. Yeah. If you're feeling happy, go all yellow. Definitely. Something like that, I think, is super fun. And then in Chicago, amazing thrift stores. So I would always go to those and on the weekends and such and piece things together. And I love patterns and prints. So I would take neckties and stitch them together and form basically fabric or yardage out of that. Did a little fashion show at Northwestern in high school.
Yeah.
It was super fun stuff like that. But it always was just something that, I don't know, I didn't really think about. It was just what I like to do. You know?
Sort of clicked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so what I think about, and especially in I don't want to, as I mentioned, this is not just real estate, but I want to bring it back to sort of how fashion, especially today, is something that I think, at least compared to back in the day, in professional life and professional work sort of places, it's something where now you're allowed to sort of express yourself a little further than you probably were in the past.
Definitely.
And I'm sure that's changed a lot in also the fashion industry, because I'm sure they used to sort of make clothes to specific work situations or stuff like that, but now it's more catered towards the individual person.
Sure.
For me specifically, it's, as you mentioned, it's like whether or not you're having a bad day or a great day. It's sort of
the morning. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's sort of it's the first thing you do to express yourself, right? Like, how else would you express yourself to others in a sense,
or to strangers too.
Yeah, or strangers, right? So it's the first it's the forefront of that, and especially in New York. How has that changed the way you think of clothes? Are you thinking more freely now on how to people, like, you're allowed to express yourself? Or when you're designing stuff, do you still think that it needs to fit inside a certain box?
Well, it's interesting, without like revealing too much about the insider process, I guess.
Yeah.
But generally, I think outlook-wise, it's always very interesting to understand who you're designing for. And that's always something, in school that was very, who's the person, who's the target demographic, what's that guy or that lady, what does she look like, what's her lifestyle?
Yeah.
It's always something very important to consider, and in any, I feel, industry needs to be considered. I hugely think that is relevant in so many different spaces, and especially as I gain experience with Ralph Lauren, that's always something. Because, as we all know, if you're familiar with Ralph Lauren, there's many different customers in that space, and they also have purple label, really refined, top shelf, best, finest fabrics, finest construction, finest quality, super exclusive, and that is a certain gentleman who will buy that and can afford that.
Right.
And then you have Double RL, which is actually just down the street from here, a little bit more rugged, a little bit more Western.
I love that spot.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's like our
stunning.
You can even buy watches and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can get vintage, archival pieces there. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Much different demographic. Then there's Polo, and within Polo, there's all sorts of different guys who shop Polo. There's guys who play a lot of golf.
Sure.
They'll shop Polo.
Sure.
And then there's Polo Sport, which is a lot more fun, a little bit more edgy, branded, city-like, cooler, fresh, younger typically.
Yeah.
And you got the real preppy guys, So there's so many different categories within each different space to design for, which is really quite fun and fascinating.
Yeah,
but I think your question was more so how has that evolved in today's space compared to maybe a few decades ago. I think a lot of that is shifted from just the casualness of today. And I think that, that's driven by probably performance in fabric. I think that the technology in fabric, things get a lot more comfortable, and that ripples through society from just a larger standpoint. I don't know quite where I'm going with that, but more so like
that makes sense.
The fabric from the 1950s, right? There really weren't as many options as there are today, from integration of elastane or spandex to make things really stretchy and comfortable.
That makes sense.
So in aesthetic, you had much more refined aesthetic just generally as the norm, because those fabrics didn't exist. Maybe it's a little bit earlier than the 50s, but you kind of get what I'm getting at. That
for sure.
Until that technology was there, like Lululemon now, those fabrics are, they're great, but they are going to be a lot more synthetic, and they're going to be a lot more, not necessarily them specifically, but that that look.
Is it cheap to, not to
it's
throw
cheaper.
Lululemon on the bus, but Lululemon is expensive.
It is expensive.
But is it cheap to make that kind
cheaper,
of fabric?
Depending on how you go about it. Some can, depending on their sourcing and their mills and who they partner with and their dyeing process, it can get very detailed for sure. But I just think with that incorporation of that type of fabric and that type of casualness, and how people realize, that's very comfortable, and it's hard to go back to wearing woven all the time with no stretch. So I think that as that goes along, that shapes a look of now, which is very interesting. And now we're in this like very big, very casual post-COVID, super relaxed fit.
Post-COVID, you're saying people gain a lot of weight?
Well, sure, there's that, but I just think people got 6 months if you're isolated. Well, however you spent your time, but most likely a lot of time indoors. You're not going to be wearing anything suit-related, anything constricting. You're wearing your sweats, and I think that people liked. I loved it. It was great.
That's a good point.
I found myself, I'm wearing very slim pants today, and I'm noticing, wow, I can't open my gait when I walk. It's not nearly as what it could be, when I wear something more classic. And so it's very interesting to experience that and live through that, even past decade, And also it's suit supply with our stuff being tapered,
And I love suit supply.
Me too.
Great stuff.
And they've adopted as well a much more classic and just open up the look a little bit more.
How quick does something like that, and cut me off, is this something we're not allowed to ask, how quick does something like that, let's say an adaptation to, this is what society is doing now, like everyone was at home, let's say COVID, for example, everyone was at home, they're doing their own thing, and they're more inclined to buy something a little looser fitting. How quickly does that go into sort of like...
and with Ralph?
Yeah.
Depends on which category specifically we'll design for.
Or does it even go there? It's like the Ralph 6.
But it's just the industry, It's like, maybe this one designer did it, or this we're seeing now with the popularity of all platforms, TikToks, Instagram, Twitter, you name it.
Yeah.
There'll be certain things that just become ubiquitous, just everywhere at once,
Like we see
all
these
the
people
time.
doing it, so we have to
For
somewhere
sure.
adapt.
But there's certain designers as well. You look at Runway and everything all of a sudden is just looser. It's flowy, and oh wow, that's really refreshing to the eye. It is more relaxing. It can be sexy at times. It can be,
so
very casual.
Here's another question to you. So when you have your own brand and you're the next Tommy Hilfiger and everything else, would you personally change your philosophy and sort of design aspects of it to, I guess, to please the majority
Reactive
of
versus proactive?
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to position that, because I think that's, from my perspective, what really separates like great designers or industry leaders or anything.
Yeah.
Sure, you got to be aware of what's going on, and everything opened up.
Yeah.
Casual, more, loose, flowy, whatnot. But if that's something that personally doesn't do anything for you as a designer, stray away from it. Keep doing what you do, because people will probably appreciate it. There's always someone that will appreciate what you do. I always go back to, there's a designer that I don't like particularly, Philip Plein, if you know him.
Love that guy.
But
how
that
the
doesn't.
fuck did that guy become successful?
But
overall?
No idea. But
I heard
there's
a crazy thing that he's like I guess
like a front or something.
Yeah, like a
I've
front
heard that
for some crazy German drug scheme.
Could be.
I believe it.
I would
the
too.
Success doesn't make sense.
But I think it just goes to show. Assuming that the business is legitimate, that there's something for everyone. Doesn't resonate with me, but there's someone who loves that.
That's a great example to bring up, though.
Ed Hardy, anything like that. There's something for everyone.
I forgot all about
Ed
Hardy.
While I'm hating, someone who looks
but
at
you're not
whether
hating.
it's polo or whatnot, it's all subjective.
Yeah.
People probably look at Ralph Lauren and say, oh, that's very. It can be waspy or something.
Yeah. I think that's
it's
a
all
great
about preference.
point, though, to bring up. Like Philip Plein.
It's not right or wrong.
It's not.
Personal.
Yeah, you're right. And I think.
But stay true to design.
Yeah,
stay true
exactly.
to what you like.
That's a great answer for it, because there's a shit ton of people in the world, but there's always gonna be something for everybody, right? And specifically, targeting a certain group of people might not hurt your brand. Like sticking true to you and sticking true to what you're thinking and what you believe in. Honestly, especially in a place like New York, will likely benefit you. That's sort of what we do, right? And I run into this all the time. Yeah, exactly. I run into it all the time with real estate. Well, people will be like, oh, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert in this area, because that might block off other areas.
But it could also hone in.
Yes, and it's like, dude, you're lying. There's a lie, and it's like, so I think the world would be a better place if each field was targeting their specific audience. It was like, fuck the rest, almost.
Yeah.
So that's a great example to bring up. Yeah. Another question I have for you is personal branding. So what I'm seeing in you, and specifically sort of in today's world, and someone else quoted this to me last week, and it's called a gig economy. Apparently, when he said it, it kind of makes sense. But nowadays, like, for example, something like Uber, or let's say TaskRabbit, or whatever it may be, like there's a lot more independent contractors today than there was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Everyone's sort of trying to do their own side hustle and whatever else. And there's a lot of influencers. There's a lot of people making money on YouTube and whatever else. And what they're doing is basically building a brand based on themselves. And I discuss this a lot, where it's like, it's a hard thing to face, because if you're building a brand that's based on yourself, and let's say you're being completely honest, and you're putting yourself out there, and then that's in my thing. That's
daunting.
It's daunting, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, imagine if
you're gonna get some people who hate it.
Exactly, and it's like, imagine if you fail and people don't like it. It's like, they don't like you, bro. Like, they don't like you and
Personal.
what you do. Yeah. But it's like the key to success. That's like how you stick out. It's just like, be yourself.
Yeah.
If you try to adapt to how other people are doing, you're just gonna feed the fuck. You're gonna be like how other people are, right? Yeah.
But it's very, very hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
I struggle with that. Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, a lot of passions that I like that probably, my closest friends have an idea, but maybe, I'm a home alone listening to some funky song or something, dancing, whatever. Yeah. Not many people see that,
Yeah. So my specific question to that is, when it comes to personal branding, do you have any advice? Because I truly believe you've nailed that, whether or not you know it. And people tell me all the time, it's like I didn't really realize, but when it comes to personal branding, and this is a question I haven't been able to answer either. When it comes to personal branding, do you think it's something you can teach or something that just is, like you said, it's a passion that was with you and your personality fits with the passion because it's something that's always been you. So you're shaped and molded in that kind of way.
Yeah.
And personally,
that's a cool question.
I think that's how it is. But
Sure.
do you think that's something that could be
like taught?
I
don't know. And I'm flattered that
but
you view
but
me in
most
that
people
way,
don't know it either, though.
Yeah,
they don't know it.
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I'm sure that it can be taught, but maybe there's some people. Actually, like I was just watching Justin Timberlake today. I was reminded of his incredible discography today.
Fucking killing it. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And there's some people that are just perhaps born with a gift. A prodigy, if you will, sauce. However you want to refer to it in that sense. And then true artistry comes from that, and they just exude a different level of creativity, and it's you can't train that type. I mean, that's just different. But I think, sure, I mean, if you're in a space and you train your eye and you tailor it and you really want to do it, whatever industry you might be, I think it can be learned for sure. But to have that deeply resonate with other people, if it's not maybe something passionate or true to you, that would probably be a lot difficult. I think people would have a disconnect because it doesn't seem authentic or genuine or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I do also think it's one of those things, like, you are not aware of how connected you. It's not something you're like promoting. It's like, oh, the brand and this and that, And I think most people, same Justin Timberlake, whoever it may be, Kanye, for example. I mean, Kanye does promote it, but it's something that most people are not aware of because they don't think that they're building it. Whereas
it's probably the best way to do it, then.
For sure, I think so. Whereas someone who's
seem forced.
Yeah,
it seems natural.
Right. It's not. Yeah, exactly, and it's something you like doing and stuff. So you adapt it that way.
Sure.
And I think it's hard if you're looking at it like someone from the outside. It's like, okay, maybe I don't like what I'm doing. I call it thing, and like you don't really know where you're at in life, and you see and this is what I think is a problem with today's sort of thing is there's so many people on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all these other things that are showing life coaching and fucking design and everything else. You can sell anything these days on all those different platforms, right? It's the problem where it's like I don't think they actually believe in what they're doing or what they're trying to sort of become.
Just from a business?
Right, exactly.
Angle? That's fair.
That's very misleading in a sense, right? And I think it creates a bad form of a culture, I guess. So this specific question in real estate has shaken the real estate industry in the past couple of weeks. So there's this AI. Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah.
This has, I mean, it's going to be a game changer. It's one of those things where the people that aren't use it, I think it's going to be like an iPhone. The people who are not using an iPhone, you can't really function.
A smartphone,
exactly. Or a smartphone, exactly. How do you think technology is going to change the fashion industry and how you work on it as sort of a whole and designer?
For fashion specifically, I mean, there's 3D technology that's incredible. Usually everything's done two-dimensionally within Illustrator, and you build out visually, from construction of garment, but also to the computer-aided designs, which will be like, okay, I have this jacket, and I've put it together in the certain colorways and present it on my screen and such. Yeah. But it only has a flat. It's very flat,
Okay.
So then there are programs now where you have an avatar, a mannequin, where you can rotate it, see how the fabric is draping, and get an idea of it. But I'm still a little bit pessimistic on it because I don't think the technology is there yet. Because I think that the amount of time it takes to do that, I still think it's not super accurate. It still looks a little glitchy. Maybe it's just the program that I use specifically, but I think it's along the same lines. It still needs time to be perfected to where it solves something. But I'm really excited for when that happens.
But no, this is a fantastic point. And series is a fantastic example of that. It's like, it's cool to have. It's cool. So, I mean, at least it was when it came out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not useful.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not useful to a sense where it helps my everyday life. and the
Sure.
iPhone. But that's where I sort of like, at least the AI aspect of it,
Yeah.
to me is sort of a game changer on the
pretty
daily
cool.
life. Like it is, but to me, at least the everyday life of the AI thing, as a real estate agent in terms of responding and everything else.
Yeah. Huge.
Dude, I can tell you, like today there was a thing. It was I had to create follow-up emails for something, and it was like, write an email to the person who didn't respond to this, and I copied and pasted them on the email, and then I was like, make them buy something, you know, and it went on.
Maybe you shouldn't be revealing this on this podcast.
Yeah, maybe not. But there was a limit to it. I didn't know there's only 2 million users that can be on that thing. It's shut down for the public now.
Oh wow.
Like, it's closed.
Whoa.
Yeah, so if you got it,
Bummer.
perfect. Yeah, I mean,
You got in.
I got that count, so I'm good.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, but no, I think you're completely right, though. Is there an element in design that you see, at least, or maybe that's coming now, and let's say in the next decade or so, that will change the game? Where it's like, if you're not using this, you'll be done.
I'm sure there will be. The biggest day-to-day thing that a lot of fellow designers, myself included, we all discussed this. You know, a lot of you met Lawson and some other friends, but we all went to school for this. We are in the industry. There's, for me, at least because I'm so visual, I'm sure everyone else who's in the space is. Generally, I think a lot of people like to have a visual to complement all the wording that goes along, especially when you're working with a product. There's several steps of the way where you need to have internally a way to track, this garment will have this zipper, it'll have all this, it'll have a lining, it'll have fabric on the outside, it'll have these ribs, all that. That has to be in an area that's kind of like an Excel. It's PLM is what we call it.
Okay.
But it basically looks kind of like an Excel, and you just have pricing next to all your everything. But within that portal, it's very dated. Lots of clicks. It's very clunky. And when an update needs to be made, that process takes a lot of time. And it just seems inefficient. I think there's going to be a solve to that, and there probably is one at the moment. But having a massive hub for not only listing out materials, a bill of materials, but also attaching alongside with it all of your visuals, all of your updates, that it just happens all in one place, I guess is what I'm getting at. I was trying to make that like not super detailed because it can get super detailed very quickly. But I think that having a solve like that would be huge for internally in the industry.
So that's actually on point. And we have a lot of those things in real estate. And that's
in any industry. I mean, that's just systems that are in place, but how do you uproot an entire system?
And the reason why I think that is because like you need a designer.
Internet only popped off like 20 years ago, so.
Yeah, exactly. We're catching up now. But the thing, and it's the same in real estate, where it's like we have all these CRMs and these back-end products that it's been shit. But it's because you need a real estate agent, a high-functioning, high-end real estate agent, to now spend time and meet a designer and a developer and a web creator to make this new thing happen within that field. And
for sure.
And that stuff takes time.
It takes a lot of time.
And it's like for him to give up whatever they're doing.
Great programming. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's the.
But it'll be incredible.
It'll be incredible.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
It'll be incredible. Yeah. But to your point though, that would be. That's like you saying, okay, I'm going to drop everything for the next 10 years and I'll develop this program to help everybody else.
For sure.
That's sort of.
And my passion wouldn't be there,
Right, exactly. So that's a
my
hard
heart
thing
wouldn't
to
be
do.
in it,
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But fuck, we need those. We
Super
need those
cool.
in a lot of different fields because you're right in a sense where you need the technology to serve everyone on a very low end level is there. Like Siri, you can ask her any question, you can ask them any this and that, but you can't ask her those detailed, passionate sort of step-by-step structure in how to bring whatever you're thinking onto paper. All that thing, you can't really do that with any technology, right? And you need those sort of specific, you need a designer.
Yeah.
Okay, so Graham, what do you think your brand, what does it stand for? And you can't say you because that's your brand is you, and I get that. And I'm sure you guys will all see that in the future, how sort of on point that is. But what is your brand's values? And I don't want to say who you're marketing to, but what is your brand's values and what does it stand for in sort of a short format?
Sure. So I think what I love about dressing is the combination of many different things, but at the same time, looking very composed, put together. Yeah, those two. So it's like a quirkiness, a playfulness, but also very refined, you know? And I think there's a lot of men that would identify with that.
Yeah.
And I think that that is what I would like to design for, would be this sophisticated but hidden discovery element, you know, I love user discovery. You know, you're wearing something and you open up and you got a fun little lining within your welted pocket. Yeah, I think that's really exciting. And maybe someone else will notice it on your garment, but you know it's there, makes you feel great to wear it. So yeah, that's something I think that would identify or would resonate deeply with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But I think also playfulness. I think especially nowadays, men there's a heightened state of, I think, men being aware of appearance and putting more time and effort into it.
Definitely.
I mean, even in other countries, Japan, a lot of men wear makeup and things like that, and that happens here as well. I would consider it. It's not something I have done, but yeah. Anyway, just to the point at which, you know, decades ago, that was not even a consideration. You'd probably be ostracized heavily for it from public. But nonetheless, I think men really are putting more effort into appearance, and with that, I'm definitely one of them. I think you'd be one of them as well, in the sense that care about it. You know, it's a sign of respect to other people when you put effort in and you look presentable. But then it's fun to play around with stuff too and show a little bit more personality. Yeah, so that that energy is what I definitely have in my will have in my label. But more so, I love the. So my mom is very into Broadway and performance and theatrics and such, and I think that rubbed off on me a lot. I don't necessarily like going to Broadway.
I fucking hate the seats, dude.
It's not, seats, sure, but just I think the performance element, I think the showmanship and things of that nature to buy into a fantasy is really interesting. So to integrate that experience one day into a store would be a dream of mine. You know, to have maybe a waitress type format on roller skates, you know, with a silver tray rolling around, and that is how you interact with, you know, hey, I would like to get this item from Graham S. Lewis, and that's how it's presented to you in, you know, fun dinner tray type of way.
I like that.
Yeah, so things like that, where it's still very, you know, like the experience and type of customer service that we had. And we learned at Suit Supply.
It's very still high end.
Very high end.
Playful.
But super playful.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But quirky and not stuffy. Like tastefully weird is the slogan, if you will.
Yeah. But no, what you're saying is fantastic, and I just want to clarify that because it's a lot of what I'm doing as well. It's like you can supply at the highest level of service and premium prices, but you're catering to. Nowadays, it's okay to express yourself a little bit while still wanting a superior product and some individuality. And you don't have to sort of fit inside that box, right?
True.
So it's needed. Well, Graham, thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And everybody, Graham's going to bring us a lot of exciting stuff in the future. Thank you for tuning in. This is Jonathan O'Malley with Serhant, Graham S. Lewis. Look out for him in the future. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a good weekend.